Hello, everyone. Ti Dave here with Jason and Andrew, Onionhead Andrew. It's a pleasure that speaking with y'all. I do want y'all to remind. I want to remind Andrew too to speak sometime about these glasses too, if you would, and the benefits you got out of them. But I'm gonna turn it over for Jason for now. Jason.
Uh, Thank you. So, uh, I came on here because uh, I don't know about everybody else, but things have gotten really fast and furious. It was just kind of funny because when this first started out, that's how I felt. I felt like I was in the movie Fast and Furious because the cars were zooming by and they're all souped up and people, that kind of element was hanging around. But uh, and I wanted to talk about how we can negate some of this stuff. I believe that Andrew has a good grasp on this. I believe that you do too, David, and that we can have like some sort of conversation that might be helpful to the community because well, there's I do believe we can help the community. I also believe that a revolution, stuff like that, won't be able to be happening digitally because we can all be honest. Everything that we have, all electronics, is compromised either through algorithm, the AI, or Intel, or whatever it could possibly be. We always have a man in the middle, and so like forming communities, helping people out, uh, knowing people individually without the digital footprint will help individuals a lot more. Another thing I want to talk about is the fact is that uh, I know that there's TIs out there that have an issue with God and are mad and they don't understand what their suffering is about. And it's hard to put in words with those people because they're so down and out and they feel hopeless, and some don't even have the luxury to talking to individuals, and they've called out to God and they don't see any sort of fruit that they think they should. And there's a lot of things that that suffering can do to build strength, and it can refine you as gold. Uh, and all the stuff that we are going to talk about is kind of like a, like a is good, but we can't rely on chariots and horses, right? We can't rely on people's abilities to do anything because if it's God's will, um, there's nothing that anybody can do to stop it. Uh, I will tell you, this is kind of funny. Before we got into this meeting, yesterday I was choking, right? Like literally choking. Like I was trying to drink water and I was just spitting it out. I tried to get it out and get it unlodged, and I couldn't get it unlodged. I had my roommate here, and I was just thinking to myself, there is nobody. Like if they call the EMT or anything like that, I'm not gonna have nobody come and help me. I'm just gonna watch me, right? They're just gonna watch me choke. And I literally was not able to get this out. And I was walking around a little bit. And as soon as I asked God for help, as soon as I asked God for help, it dislodged and it went down. As soon as I asked him. So there is power. There is power. And we're going to talk about some things to negate this, but let's be clear. Anything that we do can be circumvented eventually, can be sabotaged, can alter, and can change. So anything that you actually receive from all this stuff, all the relief or whatever you may receive, it is God is sovereign. God is the one that actually is dictating this stuff. And you may not see what he's doing on the in the background and what is going on in the background. And he does use people like Andrew, David, and all of us to get a message out, but he is sovereign. It's his will. Like so if things are working, it's not your smarts, it's not your intelligence, it's not your know-how of how this stuff works. It's God ordaining it. It's just God allowing it to happen. Because I have gone through so much within the last year since November, and I've had little increments of stuff that actually worked right at that moment in time to negate it enough that they couldn't end me, right? To negate it enough that I could walk away from these situations, but nothing really lasted. But it lasted at that very moment, and it confused the enemy. Like I'm not lying. Like when I was in the hospital and they were doing all this nonsense, they were trying to figure out a way to why am I not why am I still breathing kind of thing? Why is this still going on? Why is he able to still stand and walk and do all this stuff? And they would whisper and they would try to figure out like, is it the blanket that's surrounding him? Is it what is it? They would go in my room, they would search my room, throw away whatever they could find, but they could not pinpoint what I was doing, right? And but the thing is that that thing that I was doing, it doesn't work no more. It doesn't work no more. It actually makes it worse now. But at that very moment in time, it worked. It did work. And they were confused and they were trying to scramble to figure out stuff. Just like before I went to that hospital, to the other hospital, they thought that I had some device on me that was negating this stuff to the point where they would search my room to see if I had contraband, like I was like in some jail or something like that. They would search my bed, underneath my bed. They would try to find whatever the and all that stuff. And also like I need people to know all these people that are responsible for doing this, you know, and maybe I shouldn't say the details of it, but let's say like all our people that service people, right? People that help people, people that's supposed to defend people, people that's supposed to enforce certain regulations and laws, people that are supposed to help you medically and all that stuff. They are contributing in this and in a way that there has to be a higher up that is authorizing this. They can't do this on like some renegade mercenary stuff. Like the things I've seen, and I'm telling you, like what I've seen recently, the things that are flying in the air, some of these things that are flying in the air, no, no, no. They have to have authorization for that kind of type of use because the few things that I've seen last week or so were straight up military, should be in Iraq kind of vehicles, right? Up in the air. And they can't work independently. They just can't work independently. So if you are wanting law, you want lawfare and stuff like that, I suggest that you actually you don't sit around and be a lab rat, right? You don't sit there and wait for someone to come and rescue you, right? I'm not saying you can combat it with much except for the faith in God, but you know that's why I have you and Andrew, and we're having this conversation because there is things to negate it. Andrew has a very good grasp of a lot of things that are going on. You have a very good grasp of a lot of things that are going on due to both of your guys' research and all that stuff. Myself, I have a certain background in psychology. I have a certain background in other things. Like I used to be law enforcement. I used to be in medical. So I kind of understand those mentalities as far as like you know what a law enforcement personnel can actually do and can't do. And like you know people think that we're being stalked sometimes because they think we have some criminal record. Well, you know it doesn't matter what we would have or the investigation they have. They couldn't arrest you because there is a principle called the bad fruit, right? So if they do these things in which they're torturing people and they're surveillancing people, but they can't use that against you because it's bad fruit because of how they collected it. And really, like it can't be about you as a person or if you have some criminal thing, because these people are sitting around watching me just watch YouTube all day, talk to my friend, play video games, that kind of stuff. And like if I was a threat, believe me, I would. I think that they should have arrested me then, if that was the case, right? If this was a legitimate sort of legal surveillance because they thought I had been some sort of threat to society or to people in general, then they should have been able to collect enough for me to not be here in a free and clear. But the thing is this isn't about morals. It's not about being just. It's not about being right. Maybe some of these people think they are being right. Maybe some of these people think they are doing God's work, but the fact of the matter is it's just plain evil. And I've noticed this is that since I understand now more of the principle is not just mental when it comes to gang stalking, these people that are actually doing this, that are participating in this, they are putting themselves in harm's way. And they I don't know if they're clear about that, if they're only told like a certain compartmentalized information that doesn't give them the whole picture. But like these people have to know that whatever is going on with us, whatever attack is happening to us, whatever uh, thing that they think is right and they're cheering it on, believe me, like it goes both ways. It will turn on them as well. It's not something that is just like, this isn't just mind control. This is deep hop in itself. There's so much stuff that this stuff is that it's complicated to just narrow it down to one thing because the agenda is such evil that you can't comprehend it if you actually have a moral grain in your body. Like if you have moral principles, if you have the Holy Spirit in you, you can't comprehend the amount of stuff that they're doing to us as people. And and they use people that don't have big picture thoughts. They don't think through the plan. They don't think through from the next day to the next day because they look at the big picture. They're being used to for their own demise. They're digging their own abyss. They're just making orchestrating this whole thing where they will suffer at one time or another too. And uh, I encourage people to pray for these people, but to pray for them to suffer so much that they repent, right? Because you know what? It's better for them to suffer in this world now than for them to lose their soul. So if they suffer to the point where they repent, then maybe they will be able to be saved in the next life because this is granular. This is something like temporal. There is nothing about this life that is lasting. We all know we all live, we all were born, we all die. So as soon as and there is eternal afterlife. And if you want to punch your ticket in for for suffering in the next life, then you go ahead and do that. But the fact is like this isn't going to be like, I encourage people not to have fear because even death, there is no victory. Because even if I end up being dead, they still don't get the victory because at least then I won't have to suffer. I won't have to be in anguish. I won't have to worry about who I can't trust and who I can trust. And so, yeah, that's basically that. And, so that's what I'll
Can I
go.
say something before we move on? And then
Yeah.
Andrew, I'll turn over to you, Andrew. Me and Holly every morning and usually every night, but we'll pick a Psalms and say it out loud. Well, you got to understand if you know who David is, you're going to understand this. We could relate to this, and I know every one of both of y'all can relate to what he's saying right here. So we picked Psalm 88. Do y'all care if I read that real quick? We
Yeah,
picked
go ahead.
Psalm 88 this morning, and man, I've felt like this many times in my life, and I'm glad God has, the Most High, has shown me through this. And you got to think, David was a man after God's own heart, and he went through a lot too. And this is him crying out to God during the time when he was, some say he was being gang stalked. The whole time, he had just killed Goliath, and Saul was after him. Um, and all that, and was jealous of him because he had a prophecy over his head. And so even David went through this. Listen to what it says. It says, "O Lord God of my salvation, I have cried day and night before thee. Let my prayer come before thee. Incline thine ear to my unto my cry. For my soul is full of troubles, and my life draweth nigh unto thy grave. I'm counted with them that go down into the pit. I'm as a man that hath no strength. Free among the dead, like the slain that lie in the grave, whom thou rememberest no more, and they are cut off from thy hand. Thou hast laid me in the lowest pit, in the darkness and the deeps. Thy wrath lieth hard upon me, and thou hast afflicted me with all thy waves. Thou hast put away mine acquaintance far from me. Thou hast made me an abomination unto them. I am shut up, and I cannot come forth. My eyes mourneth by reason of affliction, Lord. I have called daily upon thee. I have stretched out my hands unto thee. When thou shalt show wonders to the dead, shall the dead arise and praise thee? Shall loving kindness be declared in the grave, or thy faithfulness in destruction? Shall thy wonders be known in the dark, and thy righteousness in the land of forgetfulness? But unto thee I have cried, O Lord, and in the morning shall my prayer prevent thee. Lord, why castest thou off my soul? Why hidest thou face from me? I'm afflicted and ready to die from my youth up. While I suffer thy terrors, I'm distracted. Thy fierce wrath go over me. Thy terrors have cut me off. They came round about me daily like water. They compassed me about together. Lover and friend hast thou put far from me, and my acquaintances into darkness. And I felt like that many times in my life, especially in targeting. And I know y'all can
Yeah.
probably relate too.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, uh, so let me see. I feel like um so if Andrew can explain like the his knowledge about the body part of this, so that we can kind of have an understanding about what to negate with that, because I feel like he's done enough research to cover that. Myself, I want to cover more of the aspect of the gang stalking part and the weaponization of it outside of the mental part, because there's a mental aspect, but um it correlates. So the body, right? When he talks about the body, I don't know about the biofield. I have no clue about all that stuff, and I'm really not trying to refute any of that. I just know that what you consume matters. And I've been always talking every time I do an interview or I see you doing an interview, David. I see you smoke that vape, right? I need to tell you, anybody, all these people, vices, alcohol, drugs, nicotine, all that stuff. That what matters does matter in that aspect, because for some reason vices have a higher uh, uh, absorption rate. So when you put that in your body, whatever they're doing to you magnifies. So, and it doesn't, and I'm telling you, vices, because I've gotten so sensitized that I can walk because I go out and about. I can feel things draw. I could feel being drawn towards them, or I could feel them. And I'm telling you, like when the nicotine aisle in the convenience store, or the alcohol part of the convenience store, that's the highest concentration right there. So vices, and that's why I do believe this is spiritual, because what the devil definitely will use your vices, right? So like, and so when you can do garlic and all that stuff, but as long as you continue to do those vices, you're just mitigating it. You're just keeping it at level, because Holly, she said she never smoked, right? And then all of a sudden she had the urge to smoke. I'm telling you, like, there is that mental part right there, because they'll either influence you by the algorithm on your phone, by the individuals over, whether in your proximity, or by voices in the head, and people with V2K that have overt V2K, that have the people that you can distinctly hear a difference from your own inner dialogue. You cannot underestimate the inner dialogue, though, because even though you have overt V2K that's saying stuff to you, that inner dialogue is also doing stuff to you, because you're not in a safe place when you're doing your inner dialogue. And I do believe that people that suffer with overt V2K, I believe you might have like a pretty good grasp of intelligence. Like, I believe you enough that they have to confuse you more. Like, they're gonna have to confuse you more, because if you have that overt and you figured out a way to filter that, well, what's the next step? That inner dialogue, because you trust that inner dialogue, right? You trust it because it's been with you, and you relied on it in the past. So they can slip it in here and there about the inner dialogue, and what and confuse you more. And the fact is that myself, when they did this nonsense with me, with my inner dialogue, and with they try to do overt V2K, right? But I don't know why they don't do overt V2K with me, but the inner dialogue, they definitely did. It got to the point where I didn't trust what was said to me in my inner dialogue. I questioned every single thing that was going in my head. Will this benefit me? Will this be rash? If I do this move, if I do this step, what will the consequences be? And that takes a lot of work and time. But if you don't know who you are, and if you don't know who you are in Christ, you will be messed up. You will be, they will get you really good. And no one is immune to it. And remaining humble is probably one of the best things to do, because arrogance and anger will get you caught up quick. And if you think you know everything, like we talked before we got on this on here, and I said me and Andrew might disagree, but the fact of the matter is that even if I disagree, doesn't mean that Andrew's wrong, because the fact is that I don't know everything. And as long as you know that you don't know everything, as long as you understand that you don't have all the answers, then you can learn. Because if you don't accept things and be open to different views, different different ideologies, different certain aspects of stuff, you're not going to learn. You'll be stuck, and they'll be able to manipulate you more. Not to say that you shouldn't have foundations. Like there is some things I believe that are objective. I do believe believing in Christ and him being the only way is objective. I don't believe there is any sort of room for it to be interpreted any differently. And that's not me trying to say anything about other people that have other views or other faiths and stuff like that. I'm not saying anything that I think I'm morally correct or that anything that I'm doing is above anybody else or that I'm a better person for believing that. I just believe that's the truth. I just believe that that's the only way. And so, and then the psychological aspect of this. Um, so my history in that is that my family business basically from my aunt, my uncle, my grandmother. My grandmother used to work for uh, uh, health and welfare. She was the lead person. She was the supervisor for health and welfare. She used to take care of kids, and so she had a degree in psychology. My uncle and my aunt have a degree in psychology. Uh, I have taken psychology, and I have it just became second nature, um, partly due to that aspect of it, and partly due to abuse and trauma that I've had in the past. So it's kind of given me more of a perspective about micro expressions and deceit and basically human behavior. Um, Good, bad, deception is one thing that I've gotten better at figuring out and reading really well. But like I said, you have to be humble and you always have to be willing to be wrong and not everything is 100% proof. But I watch, I don't watch, I watch special people like intel people. I watch them all the time and I watch them in different settings, different personalities, different podcasts to see what they do. And you will see like a subtle difference and they will adapt to whoever they're with and they will talk in the same demeanor. Um, I mean, they all have a baseline, they all have a certain element, they're all charismatic, they all have people skills, but they will adapt. And like you got a person that's a little more rough edge, you will see that intel person talk more rough. You have a person that's more softer, a little more gentler, more like down to earth. They will talk more down to earth, a little bit more meek. But that's the reason why I say that is because if those people are trained and are able to know how to deceive people, can you imagine an everyday citizen that has not had that training and how much more simpler it would be to watch them and to watch their interactions and to see how they act because they don't have the training. Some people don't need training though. Some people can actually do it pretty well, but they all get everyone slips up. Everyone reveals himself, just like God said, like whatever is in darkness will be brought to light. So, but yeah, I don't, I definitely didn't. I think I'm talking more than I wanted to. I kind of wanted to hear some stuff about Andrew, about some of the stuff that he's found out and everything like that. So uh, I'll be done for now.
I just want to make one point before Andrew starts. That was a awesome point you made, and that's how I feel like I've gained a lot of wisdom over these years, is because I'm open-minded to everything. I know I don't know it all. That really helps people when you don't know it all, and you can listen to other people with constructive criticism and welcome it. Go
Yeah,
ahead, Andrew.
When all this started for me, all this breakthrough of like figuring stuff out, I was being electrocuted from my feet to the top of my head, and I literally felt I was in the I don't know how much I can go into this because of YouTube, but the depopulation, I had just figured out that it was going on and how it relates from Morgellons to that thing that everyone was supposed to take. And I was looking at my family and seeing all these people take the thing that was whatever. I think that should be pretty obvious for people. Uh,
Yep.
And I fell down upon my knees and I begged God for answers. And right after I did that, I just because I needed to know how to deal with what was attacking me, the directed energy weapons, what was going on there. And I already knew a little bit about that there was something in my body that was making me reflective or refractive because of Morgellons to the directed energy weapons, but I didn't know how it tied. And I got down on my knees and I prayed, asking for the answers so I could destroy it. That's what it was. And about it was within the hour. It could have been within 10 minutes. I don't know. Time was a blur because I was being attacked so badly. It's just like any attack you could imagine. The aerosols, the directed energy weapons, the chemical particulate in the air was so thick in this house that I was living at. They were using the sewer. So all I was breathing all day was that. And literally on the radio, something came on about orange peels or lemon peels. I can't remember. It was lemon peels, but I had orange peels around me. And I grabbed the orange peel and I immediately ate it. It was something like lemon peels can save your beauty or something. It was some like woman beautician health like skin thing. And it was just like, whoa, I had just been praying for an answer and something about that peel. So I opened this orange peel and I ate it. And instantly, just instantly the targeting went down. The directed energy weapons capacity just instantly went from here to half. And then I ate another orange peel, like a full orange shell peel, ate the whole thing and went down to nothing for like 30 seconds and just complete uh, mental clarity. And I was like, oh my God, there's something here. So I went outside and I pulled the leaves off of a tree. And it was oh, I can't remember what it was. It was like a rhododendron. They got waxy leaves, doesn't matter. Green waxy leaves. And I pulled off a few handfuls of them and I just started eating them. And it was very bitter, just like the orange peel. And I had the same resolution of symptoms. About I don't know, in the process of doing that, which was like 3 hours, I there immediately Eureka moment hit me, is that uh there is a charge associated with all this in our body and that we can solve with the food we eat. So for the first, this was 2021, I think. Yeah, this would have been the summer of 2021, early summer. For the first literally year and a half after that, what I did is I only ate alkaline and alkaline foods. And because I knew that this electrical charge was just so easy to facilitate with the foods. During that time, I did try to reach out a little bit to people, and I was just rebuked by everyone because I was telling people what they didn't want to hear. It was like, and that's actually when I reached out to Dave, or a little bit after that, and that's why I came at. See, I when I reached out to Dave, I was pretty rude to him because I was like, I had been rebuked by so many people in the community because I thought because number one, there's a lot of spooks in the community, counter intel agents, whatnot, and two, because I was telling people things they didn't want to hear, that you could control a lot of this with the food you eat, right? And you can, if you can get fresh, clean, alkaline food, you can control all of it. And there's no better solution than fresh, clean, alkaline food, as far as I can tell, because it stops the directed energy weapons and then it actually makes you stronger.
Hey,
But
Andrew, can I ask you a question real quick?
yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. So, okay, I agree with the food. I
Uh-huh.
really 100% agree. Like, if you don't eat healthy, like if you gotta stay away from processed foods, stuff like that, eat whole
Mhm.
foods. The thing I have, because I'm very limited about this, the alkaline part that you talk about, the aspect of that, only
Yeah.
thing I'm aware of is that that's what batteries are, alkaline, right?
Okay, well, that's because that they're alkali metals. Alkali metals aren't the same thing as alkaline foods. They're actually opposite. If you look
No.
at the periodic table of elements, the
Uh,
alkali metals, they hold charge. So
okay.
you can fill them up electrically and then they can dissipate that. And that's what the batteries are made out of, like lithium or beryllium.
Yeah.
Salt in general does that. But
Yeah.
all those metals, those heavy metals that are alkali, they're all actually, if you consume them, they make you acidic. So it's
Okay.
literally the opposite. They should be, I mean, yeah,
Well,
I
because
don't know.
like alkaline does like part of the aspect of alkaline batteries is the acidic aspect of it. You can't have energy go through without the acidic aspect. Like, and you can make a battery with lemonade and water and salt and a penny, and you can kind of make it run through. So I mean, I'm not disputing your alkaline thing. On
Uh,
I definitely don't think I know enough to say anything like that. But
mhm.
because I 100% agree that food is a very big important aspect of this, and like the microbial part of our gut is also an
Mhm.
aspect. Do you address that stuff too? You address the microbial part of your body?
Well, so this is all, I mean, this is all stuff I've figured out anecdotally, just through my experiences and whatnot. But Dr. Robert Young, he's got
Uh,
all the science of it. Now, what you're talking about specifically with the microorganisms in the body, there's a concept behind it. And again, I didn't figure this out, he did. It's pleomorphism. Pleomorphism basically means that under different electrical conditions, these different things flourish or die. So,
mm,
like the beneficial bacteria in an alkaline body flourish. The yeast in a acidic body flourish. And they literally change their membranes literally change shape because of the electrical currents around them. So a healthy bacteria will be roughly this shape. And as the internal environment becomes acidic, it will literally form into rod-shaped bacteria, and then that rod-shaped bacteria will split into yeast shape. And
so
look at
I do believe, sorry, I do believe that we're on the same page because
yeah,
I think we're on the same page. You're talking about the bacteria influencing the bacteria in your body, correct?
yeah,
With
literally
alkaline stuff?
under electrical conditions, it literally changes from
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
beneficial to harmful.
I think like maybe I don't understand it the way you do, right?
Mhm.
But like I have a baseline as far as like the microbial part of the aspect of your body. Because if you get all that stuff going, like you said, right, alkaline, whatever it is that you're doing, uh,
Mhm.
it will help your skin. And we all know that our gut is a part of our brain, right? So if you're basically trying to affect the bacteria and how it's produced, I believe that you're I think you're probably right about the alkaline thing. It just confuses me because I know alkaline batteries was also the reason because alkaline batteries use electricity, and I definitely don't want to become a battery, but
Yeah, well, yeah, sorry for interrupting you. Don't get too caught up in the alkaline metals because they're they're just the they're just the material that's in the battery. The battery is
uh,
then being charged full. So they just
yeah,
share a name, but they do not share the same function at all.
okay,
The foods that are alkaline are all made of the organic materials on the complete other side of the periodic table of elements. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because each column in the periodic table of elements, besides the middle, which is transition metals, they all hold
mm,
a different amount of electrons in the outer shell, which isn't, I mean, that's not really quite accurate. Etheric physics is a better, but whatever. Either way, it tells you electrical charge and their capacity to hold electrical charge. I think that, and I don't use food anymore to heal myself because in this area that I'm in, the greater Vancouver, Washington, Portland area, the
uh,
FBI contractors and all their people, all the organized crime has poisoned everything. All the
yeah.
food supply here is totally messed. But I
Well,
do I do think
like I don't think it's just poisoned for you specifically though,
no.
because what I've noticed though is like it's just the population has been poisoned because
Yeah, well,
we have those forever chemical stuff, right?
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
do know there's correlation between that because when I was talking to David earlier about how they changed the molecular structure of stuff, I
Mhm.
couldn't pick up on what that necessarily was because all I had around me was so-called forever chemicals and plastics and stuff like that, right? And what I've detected is that like, there is other elements. They can't necessarily change the molecular structure to the point where it will uh, it's not as prevalent as a plastic item, right? It's not as prevalent as all that stuff. And if you think about everything that they do, right? They don't need to necessarily. They do extra for us though. You're not. I'm not disputing that, and it's possible that they've done that to you, right? They've absolutely done that to you because they will come in your house. They don't have to spray stuff. All they have to do is alter stuff. So if you look at your house, right, and you look at your walls, you'll see some weird stuff like pinholes that shouldn't be where they should be, where they're at, and they're placed in certain areas in your room, right? And they don't have to necessarily do. I don't know. The macro part of this is that it's a big weapon. The micro part of this is the ability of individuals and the other uh, visible stuff that we see. But to poison us in general, they don't have to necessarily poison us, really directly poison us. They don't have to necessarily use a chemical compound to poison us. Doesn't mean that they don't, though. It doesn't mean that they don't. So, but you're right, because you are Vancouver, Vancouver.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm in Pierce County. Washington is hell. Everybody need to know Washington is hell. Like there is some kind of malevolent sort of craziness in Washington. Like I swear,
It's the military contractors. They're just from San Francisco up to Seattle. There's so many of them here.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
what it is.
yeah. But, and the reason why I bring up the poison part is because I'm am absolutely not disputing what you're saying is not correct, but the thing is that doesn't explain the other stuff that they do and how they do it because they will literally like they will because it has to. I don't know how. I don't know the details because one, I feel like my phone is compromised. I feel like any electronics is compromised. So any research I could do could be compromised, right? So I can't give you certain elements of that because I'm afraid that if I do that, and that might be them messing with me, right? Me not looking it up thoroughly, right? I can only say what I've physically seen and experienced in empirical, like how science you have to observe stuff, right? And test it and don't have a conclusion until later on, right? Until you've tested it over and over again. What I've noticed, they sabotage elements of your environment and not just to spray something on there, but to make sure that whatever this macro weapon is can accelerate your environment. And the Morgellons is 100 because I'm gonna tell you one thing I respect about you is you are absolutely right about hair. Absolutely right about hair. It's like an antenna on your body. Like you will find a dramatic difference once you shave yourself. You will find a dramatic difference, but it's not just skin. It's internal. It's internal because yeah, whatever we consume, because it runs through your veins. I can guarantee you that it
Yeah.
runs through your veins.
Well,
So
I can touch on all of this in a second, Dave. What do you want to
yeah,
say?
yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I just want to share an experience I had during my time, and I use that stun gun EMP pretty regularly now because I know that vape. Jason's right. Vape is a vice. I have slowed down quite a bit. I've been smoking since I was 18. It's not healthy, but even if you don't vape, you're just as much saturated as if you do vape. In my opinion. But listen to this. This is a weird experience I had. I shared this with Andrew. I was about 3/4 away with doing my whole body the first time with a stun gun EMP. I woke up from taking a power nap, and it's about 8 o'clock at night. And man, there's this dense fog all throughout the house, and I'm talking about fog. I thought the house was on fire. So I go look. That's the first thing I do is walk through the house, see if anything's on fire. Then I look outside to see if there's any fog. There was no fog outside. The house wasn't on fire. Um, and this mist just hung in the air, and it wasn't from smoke, none of that, vapes, none of that. We had been asleep, and I still don't know what it was, but it was during the time I was about 3/4 of a way, and it dissipated after about a couple hours. But I'm talking about it was like a fog, like you are, like you know how it fogs in the morning, early morning fog. The whole house was like that for about 2 hours.
Dave, that's the perfect segue because what Jason was talking about, the macro weapon, and what you were just talking about, your micro experience, like Jason was framing, that's exactly what I was going to say. Is that the backing, like Jason was saying, they're accelerating your environment to make it hold more capacity for your targeting. What that literally is, and there's many things here, but what it mostly is chemtrail based weather weapons or weather weapons based chemtrails. And what I mean by that is they're releasing aerosols into the environment of every targeted person. Okay. Now, the general population has this too in the form of chemtrails. And not only that, but the same particulate they're putting in chemtrails, they're putting in the food and the water. So when you're going, and that's what I was talking about earlier, Jason, when I was saying the whole food supply is poisoned around you, is not particularly aimed at me because I don't give them access to my stuff, but it's aimed at the general population because I'm part of the general population. I have to deal with it. But what they do is they release this particulate, they release it from the air on targeted individuals specifically, but general population always got chemtrails. They release it from the air, from the sides, and from the ground. Okay. From the ground is the sewer system. When you live in a house and you have your walls secure or free of other potential spook neighbors, what they do is they pour this crap down the drains. So when you use your water, it comes up. Water goes up, gas fumes, the water goes down, gas fumes come up. Okay. And you know this because during break-ins, what they'll do, these contractors, they'll sabotage your toilets so they're always running. They'll sabotage your drains so that they're leaking a vacuum. And they'll just try to wick as much of this crap up in your environment. How they're wicking it up is with electromagnetic pulses. All right. So weather weapons. It's the same NexRad, all that crap.
LRAD, LRAD,
LRAD,
right? Yeah.
yeah, HARP, all that technology, but it's being beamed directly in a cone shape at your house to wick this crap up out of the sewers. That's your average targeted person. Now, if they can access you, if they don't have to go through that, they'll access you from the sides. What they'll do is they'll put this particulate in gas tanks. Usually, they'll put it in dryers. They'll put it in things that can heat it up, and then the natural wind drifts or the weather weapons will drift it into your house. This is why they're putting pinholes to your walls so that this stuff, and then they geofence it. They put these markers up around, your environment so that they know how to guide it. These Bluetooth
And
markers.
they have to do it consistently, though. You know that, right?
Yeah,
They have
yeah,
to
yeah.
do it
They're
because
always releasing.
that's
They're
why the flyovers are what they're doing. The flyovers, they're always pinpointing something, right? Because it's
yeah. So
not
the
just metal there. So go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. The flyovers, that's the weather weapons, and they're doing other things too. But they'll literally right before a flyover happens, right before you hear it, you'll get symptoms. Literally right before it. And what's happened is the flyovers, the little small airplanes, they've got these pulsing capacity. So they'll be pulsing and wicking, I don't know, pulling, pushing this particulate, and it fills up your breezeways, and then it fills up your breathways. And then
So and
immediately,
so you just confirmed though, Andrew. You said you
yeah,
had symptoms prior to the flyover. That's
right,
because
right
someone,
seconds before.
yes, that's because someone had notice your environment. You may not, I don't know if you have closed windows or if you have open windows. Notice your environment. Someone has pinged you prior to that. That's why you have
Yeah.
the symptoms. And as soon as you have the symptoms, that flyover will come and that will hit you, right? It will not just hit you, it can hit the environment too. But
Well,
that's go ahead.
you're being bombarded, Jason, all the time with RF and ELF and all that, all as much
Yeah,
frequency as they can aim at you, really. And then
yeah, yeah.
occasionally they're hitting you with lasers, right? That's like more or less what's going on. So like as much of the electromagnetic spectrum as they can use on a regular basis, and most of
Uh-huh.
it is automated, and some of it is pinpointed, like literally lasers, right? Literally lasers hitting you various
Yeah.
times. Okay, the when you breathe this heavy metal, synthetic heavy metal, this chemtrail particulate, and that, by the way, it has the uh Morgellons filaments or the nanotech filaments. That's the smart dust. They put everything in it. When you breathe this stuff, the implants in your body get are pulsed with low voltage, and it gets pulled to those areas. Over time, the nanomachinery will buttress from point A to point B, and directed energy weapons will access that, and that's where people are getting their internal voltages or the internal shocks. It's like how would they be able to penetrate the synapses of your brain with just a pinpoint directed energy weapon? They wouldn't. It wouldn't happen.
I think one wonders why they're able to do that, what you just said, right?
Yeah.
Is the when I said about vices and stuff, or like we talk about consuming because like those vices they break the blood brain barrier, right?
Okay.
Nicotine
Yeah.
breaks the blood brain
Uh-huh.
barrier.
Yeah.
Alcohol does too. All these kind of things that give you a stimulant, whatever,
Mhm.
breaks that. So I mean, they use us against us. And then I do need to say this, that you're absolutely right. Aerosol is used quite often. When I was at the hospital, they used it. That's the first time I ever seen it overtly, the aerosol stuff, and it had like a distinct smell there, right? And they would spray it in the environment nonstop while I was at the hospital,
Okay,
nonstop.
they're
And then they
doing
had it in their cleaning supplies and all that stuff.
yeah, they're doing the same thing to you in your housing, but it's just much thinner and it's mixed with much more things. So we don't
Yeah,
perceive it the same way like you did at the hospital. But I have before, or like Dave did. That's what Dave was dealing with, the fog. He was dealing with a chemical solvent mixing with this chemtrail particulate so that they could use weather weapons to fill up his house full of this shit. And they were
yeah,
doing that because he was deactivating his implants. So when you deactivate your implants, they'll try to fill your environment with more of these aerosols or chemtrail particulates, chemtrail like particulates. And the reason is once you breathe that, that makes you accessible to a much higher degree with directed energy weapons. That's the whole
yeah, yeah,
thing. And what nano, and like what you were saying with your vices, the alcohol and all that, tobacco, geez, even sweets like ice cream, stuff like that, stuff that they can put this shit in. It's candy bars, for example, a whole bunch of stuff, soda pop. But it's beyond that. It's in the total food supply also right now. That's why I
yeah. It is.
stopped eating fresh and organic. But either way, when you consume all this crap, at least where on the West Coast, I don't think the whole country is this bad. But on the West Coast, like me and Jason are dealing with, the food supply here is totally messed. But again, I think in other places in the country it's better, but it still has elements of this. Like I think certain name brand soda pops all over the world have this, like the one that
I
starts with
absolutely, I absolutely will not drink soda. I absolutely
yeah.
won't. And
Uh,
the thing is like, I, 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 just like with Andrew's point, what you consume is so important. Like, it's not going to take everything from you, but the less you poison your body, the less they can poison you. They will do that. And listen, everything that we're talking about, if they have an agenda to get you, they're just going to amp up something, right? So you
yeah.
can negate the food, you can negate a lot of stuff, but that means they're going to try another avenue. They're
Well,
going to try more stuff. And Washington, I do not. There is something in Washington because like I'm so sensitive. I was watching a live stream of Seattle, Washington, right?
uh,
And I could feel a reaction from it, right? And I don't know how that was possible unless it was some sort of frequency that has been played around the whole city, right? And like contractors, I don't know, like how is it contractor? How I believe that it's more than contractors. I believe that it's the legit organization because
well,
I saw fighter jets,
yeah.
not just my experience right now is not these little uh helicopters or little like one person plane. I got like carriers and fighter jets and
Well,
stuff like that going.
that's because you're right next to the Joint Air Force Base, Jason.
Yeah, yeah.
they're also using EEG heterodyning.
Yeah, and I know that's a factor, right? But I've seen the operators wear it. It looks like a hearing aid, but it's not. And it'll be like right above that ear, usually on the left side. But I don't think it's that effective. But that's a completely different. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not gonna say I do, but I have seen it for sure in real life. The
Right. I'll be doing a video on that pretty soon. I've got the information ready. I
well,
just hadn't
dude,
done a video.
Dave, I know a lot of people, we've talked about this off air, and I'm not going to get into the specifics of it, but for obvious reasons. But I know a lot of the people that talk about heterodyning are spooks. Not all of them, but enough of
Okay.
them to be very skeptical. But anyways, I'll just throw that out there.
That's
The
because I agree with Andrew because you know what, like
I'm
there's a
not a
big
spook.
no, not you, Dave. I'm talking about
Oh, okay.
you don't
yeah,
have
I'm
This is
talking
Brian
about
too. Brian too talks about it. I don't think Brian too's
But
a
let's see, the
spook,
thing is, you
but
don't have to be a spook to give wrong information. And I'm not saying you're wrong, but the fact of the matter is that's what the spook job is to make sure that you parrot what they talk about. Because the more they get you to believe, the more you parrot the easier they have of their job. They only have to give you a subtle little salt, a grain of information to get you going, to get you on this other rabbit hole of stuff. And no one is negating that neural that they're not doing neural stuff to you, that there is not a neurological aspect to it, but there is so much more than that. That's what I feel like I'm almost emotional because it's so much more than just mind control, so much more than just your neurological state, because your body is inundated and it just, I mean, they poison your whole entire body, and
Okay.
it's so important to make sure that people understand that it's only, they're only giving let me see, when these guys do this stuff, they do a lot of, they give you a little bit of information and then they omit a whole bunch. And the reason why they omit a whole bunch is because that's the important part. If your algorithm is spewing out all this stuff, and if the information that you're getting is so readily available that you don't have to really search for it, you have to question that, because that's the narrative they want you to know. Because you got to understand, like, they want you to know about the neurological stuff. For one, it can paralyze a person. If a person thinks that that they have no privacy mentally, that they have no privacy in anything they do, and they can't calculate or move like a chess place anywhere because their moves are already predicted, then they're going to be numbed.
Well,
They're going to
Jason,
be
you were saying that you lived that experience, right? That's what you were
yeah,
just saying a second ago.
with what?
You
And
were
the
saying that you were questioning your inner dialogue in every
Oh
way.
yes, inner dialogue. Yes, I think like, but see, this is how I think is that like, um, our brains are complicated, right? And it's possible that they can read it. I guarantee you, 100%, they can inject stuff into your brain, right? And they can inject thoughts and they can inject things like that. So yes, I do believe there is a neurological aspect of it. But what I'm trying to say is that it's one aspect of it that they want you to know. So why do they
when I
want
say
you?
heterodyning, I mean mixing of brain signals. I'm not talking about a headset. I'm talking about being attacked and them taking over your cerebral cortex remotely. I don't know what a headset thing came in, but I'm talking anyway.
That's something I've literally seen operators in the field wear.
Oh, okay. But I don't
Yeah,
think Brian too is a spook at all. I've been in
well,
contact with Brian too a lot. I've actually on the phone called. I've heard him being tortured. I've seen him being tortured live. I've been on the phone
yeah.
on FaceTime. I mean, I just don't
Well,
think he's a spook.
I don't
I wasn't talking about
mind
Brian
to.
too.
Oh, well,
I
he's
w-
the one giving me some of my information and
yeah.
showing me
Oh,
links to
absolutely.
research.
And
I
that's
was talking about a
great.
certain doctor, but I didn't want to get into it.
Oh, oh,
Yeah.
I think I know who you're
And
talking
also
about.
though, like what I said earlier is that like I don't think me and Andrew are disputing the heterodyning stuff. And I definitely would not call Brian too a spook.
Well, I'm just
All
saying,
I'm
I
saying,
said I was going to do a video about it, and then y'all say, well, most people that give information are spooks
no, no,
about
no, no,
Oh no,
no.
not
heterodyning.
you, Dave. Not you, Dave.
You could
Everyone
do
Okay.
here
that.
is legit. I'm 100% confident of Jason and Dave. I'll put
Yeah,
my
yeah,
stamp.
yeah. No, and Andrew, Brian
Hey,
too. I'm
email
not,
me when we get off there on what doctor you're talking about.
Okay.
Okay.
because Brian too. I think he's legit. I'm not. Oh my goodness. So what we have to be careful about is that none of us try to refute the information. We just try to give more information about stuff, because you could do the heterodyning stuff because that's important. I'm just trying to say the psychological aspect of it is that you have to watch for what they're wanting the narrative for you to know. Like if you have stuff that's being pushed to you, you have to question why they want that narrative. And it's not like if the narrative is incorrect, but why do they want you to only focus on that narrative? Why
Well,
not
and the
focus on?
reason, yeah, the
Yeah,
reason I brought that up about what you were saying earlier in the reference to it is because it makes you hopeless when you believe that you're linked like that. Like you were just saying, it makes you hopeless.
it
But
does.
hey, I would be remiss not to follow this point up about the heavy metals, synthetic heavy metal, the chemtrail particulate, because I think this is what's kind of going on. This is the big secret of the whole thing. This is what's going on to the general population. This is what's going on with targeted people. For the last 100 something years, the royals that own the corporations have been filling the food supply with iron and every heavy metal, and they've been activating or vibrating or facilitating people's thought patterns using radio frequencies. So that's been going on since like 1920 when they fortified white bread or something like that. I don't know. Tavistock Institute was literally 100 something years ago at this point. So there's literal proof of what I'm saying about that. The only thing that's changed from that point to this point is a huge thing. It's this nanotech. And this nanotech that I was talking about earlier with the smart dust and Morgellons filaments and all of that, that's coming from the chemtrails mostly in the public, but also if you're targeted, it's literally being released everywhere around you as much as they can. It was probably in the fog that Dave was talking about, right? What this does, it does one thing. It's a synthetic man-made parasite. And you can go to carnicominstitute.org or a com. Yeah, I wish I remember if it was .org.com. Either way to see the source material on what I'm saying. But what it does is it organizes this heavy metal and gives it in synthetic heavy metal compounds and gives it a structure. That's what I'm when I'm referring to polymers in your body. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this nano machinery ordering the particulate that we were talking about earlier that's being released all around you all the time, along with the synthetic biology, nanotechnology. And that's forming these polymers. These polymers are being formed around implants. The implants are so small, and they're being shot into people using electromagnetic weapons, railguns particularly, all the time. All the time. If you're targeted, you might be getting shot with these things once a week. You know, if you're deactivating implants, you're going to get shot with them all the time. These implants are forming the nodes, okay, of the nanotechnology and heavy metal, synthetic heavy metal, chemtrail like particulate. That is what's creating the way for directed energy weapons to access you from the outside in, because your body is made of insulative material. You're like 1,000 times more insulated than a machine. Just like think about the layers of your body. You know, you've got your skin. Well, let's start. You got hair, skin. Um, Underneath that, you've got subcutaneous layers, you've got lymph nodes, you've got connective tissue, you've got your blood, you've got all these organ sacs, then you have the organs themselves, then you have the things within the organ. For a directed energy weapon to be able to come from the outside in and penetrate you that deeply, it needs channels of conductivity. It just needs it. If it doesn't have it, you're talking about those big active denial systems, and they're big. They're literally Humvees, and they literally have an array to fire at crowds that are 5 feet by 5 feet, 10 feet, something like that. They're these big satellite dish looking things, and they require literally millions um, uh, voltage and crazy amounts of amperage. They have these ADS system, active denial systems, millimeter wave systems on these Humvees. They can only fire them for like 20 minutes at a time before they need to go recharge them. That's what your body will do because it's insulated without the conductive pathways. Now, that being said, like Dave asked me to talk about earlier, your eye is a naturally conductive pathway because it receives light. Well, it doesn't really receive it. That's a different conversation. But blocking your eyes with these blue blockers, this is the most effective of them, the orange red ones. I got lucky and found these on Facebook Marketplace. They were $15, but that's because I found them on Facebook Marketplace. These are overs. They go over your glasses. The ones Dave is wearing, you can buy. I'll let Dave talk.
Yeah, you can buy them for $15. If you have technology to tap in somebody's brain, tap their cerebral cortex, and manipulate jerking. Well, they've done that to Holly, me. They can make my arms jerk. They can make anything they want happen. That's why I believe that it's deeper than this, and they're way more advanced. You're going to leave the active denial system up and make people think, well, you got to have a big thing to do that. You're going to deceive people like that. You're not going to just come out and say, all right, we've had just like the Neuralink brain chip. I really think that's all a hoax. They can do that without having a chip in your brain. I think it can be done without. I think that's a hoax just to make people think you got to have that chip in your brain for to achieve it. I really think they're 40 or 50 more years advanced what we've even researched, but I could be wrong. You know,
Well, no, I don't think you
I think
are
we're
wrong.
all right here in some point.
I don't think you are wrong. The thing is like the neurological part and aspect of it is 100% true. And what Dan Andrew is talking about, like I don't necessarily think they have to have that weapon he's talking about, because the macro part that I'm talking about is constant, ongoing, saturating all the time.
Well, but
Neurological,
Jason, the
yeah,
the macro part is in everyone. That's the point of that's the depopulation that's going on right
yeah, yeah. And see, that's why my point is like I told you guys about off camera before we recorded. I could do certain things, right? Maneuver certain ways and change certain aspects. That's because every individual that targets us, every individual like ourselves, has stuff, and if I and you can manipulate it to go towards another individual. So the fact is that like what saddens me the most is that the macro, the big thing, it's happening to everybody. The Depop is an agenda. Mind control is an agenda. All this stuff is an agenda. The neurological, to try to take your soul, to try to take your mind, is all correct. I think like David is correct. Like I don't think nothing that we're saying isn't out of the realm of possibility. And I think David's right. I believe that the technology is so advanced that we have no real grasp of it. We have a minute part, and we might have a good grasp compared to certain other people, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we have the full agenda or the full information that's available, because uh, I'm telling you, there's stuff that's happened that looks like witchcraft. Like when you think of witchcraft, you're thinking like, man, this stuff, hair follicles of other individuals. I have found numerous times. I've had bugs, flies, moss. I mean, not moss, moths, all these things. Uh, they do. It's weird stuff that they do too. I
now.
promise you
Well, yeah,
that
I
Jason,
think we're all right. I think they use everything we've
yeah,
discussed. I
yeah,
think
yeah,
they're using.
Jason, the literally the thing that you were just talking about with the follicles and the bugs, I know exactly what you're talking about with the Morgellons symptoms, or what people call Morgellons. That
uh,
they that's um the old vector for the nanotechnology. It's what all of us have in every targeted person, as far as I know. I could be wrong though. It could be most. It's probably most, not all, has got the old nanotechnology in them, and then is got, then they're trying to get the new nanotechnology in them too. But the old nanotechnology they made with the the technology that was derived from the experiments that were done on insects, the Drosophila fly in particular. The only reason I know this, by the way, is that I had a Lyme specialist, and we would talk about it all the time. And she was a student of Hildegard Staniger back when all of this was being figured out. She was being treated by Hildegard Staniger back in like 2006. God has like put all this, not all of it, but a lot of this in line for me. But either way, that's the old nanotechnology. They used basically, long story short, they used insect DNA and a whole bunch of other foreign DNAs, and they slapped them together in what's called a plasmid. And they made this plasmid a vector of infection. And it's literally in the line, the insect and the tick population, the mosquito population, and some other things I don't know.
Yeah, from my research, every TI has Morgellons. Just 1 or 2% have a bad reaction to it, which causes the stuff to start coming out the skin and the hair and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's got to do with the size of the pores of the skin. If you've got big pores, then you have a reaction. If you've got small pores, it just goes stealth.
Right.
Yeah.
But I wasn't saying, I just want to clarify, I wasn't saying none of us are wrong. I think they use many different things. I think everybody, everything we've discussed is being used. And the reason I think they're doing that is to keep everybody confused, to keep some people's targeting may not be as heavy as others. Some people may be being tortured to where they can't even get out of bed. I think they do all that to create mass confusion in the community and have people judging, questioning, and all that.
Yeah, and I think that generally that's right. There is some other things like I know that they use insecticides and herbicides on people during break-ins and stuff like that I don't experience.
well,
But
and they use insecticides in crops, and they use it prior to eating it. So yeah, you're right. I agree. So
but the hardware in our bodies, I think this is what it is. And yeah, there's probably more stuff like Jason was just talking about that I'm not talking about, like the when the bioplaques get thick, the amount of crap that can come out of them, because that's literally what it is in the bioplaque. This DNA like literally takes a life form. But yeah, Dave, you want to talk about that for a second?
No, that's good stuff right here. Well, it's a little pricey, but I called it on sale. But it's called Ancient Minerals Magnesium Bath Flakes. It says use a whole bag in your bath, and I don't do that. I just use like 2 cups. It's a big difference compared to the other Epsom salts.
The big thing
Yeah,
that's the big secret to all of this, I guess this is my big point, and this is what I've been trying to like since the inception of the channel. Dave, you remember our first conversation. I have not changed one bit about what I'm talking about here.
Nope.
The nanotechnology aspect of this. Once you understand that there's nanotechnology growing in you and it requires acidic conditions to maintain itself, or else it will fall apart, then everything else starts to fall in line. Then you start to figure out everything is not everything, but how to survive.
But I've talked to
yeah.
TIs I've talked to TIs that's this been happening to since 1995, 1994. That's
And
Yeah,
that's the
emailed
and
me.
thing that the 1995, 1994. See, if this is a big agenda worldwide, then this thing has been going on since the 1800s.
Yeah.
It's maxed out. Like it
I'm
start.
talking about like the stuff we experience today with the
Yeah, yeah,
neural hacks and making they've been
yeah,
doing that since
yeah.
I'm in touch with a couple of TIs that's been doing, they've been experiencing it since 94.
Yeah,
yeah,
I
I
agree.
just
I agree. I think like
yeah.
they're slow trickling information to us, right? If you look at stuff now, people are talking a bunch of crazy nonsense on TV, on YouTube and TikTok that just confuses the crap out of you. And these are normal people. These are not TI people. These are people that seeing funny business all over the place, right? 1994, 1995. See, if you follow like geopolitical stuff, you follow our politicians, you will see they've been enacting laws to make whatever's going on right now legal almost, right? So they've been enacting laws, and this stuff has been going on since at least the 1800s, late 1800s, right? And it just didn't have the tools or the way to propagate us as a society, right? And they focus on generational stuff. So whatever generation that they want them to be molded at, they from the womb we are attacked. From the womb we are propagated to. We are not we're all different individuals, don't get me wrong, but we're also subjected to their influence that they've given us. Depending on how old you are and who you are and what demographic you are, they've influenced you some way or another. But the technology, like the brain stuff, I'm sure, because let me tell you, I've had some weird stuff happen to me as a kid. I think I told you one time when I was a kid, my stepdad used to be really abusive, right? And he was yelling at me, and I didn't have to give him any excuses to hit me, but I I bowed down like some sort of royal bow down, right? Like like some royal person would bow down to a royalty individual, and I flipped my arms around, and I couldn't control that bow. I did that without wanting to, without thought, and that just activated him to hit me and punch me, right? And there was a time when I was a toddler, I was in the crib, and my pillow stood up directly, and the corners of it started moving like a mouth. You're telling me these things like this stuff has been around. Like a lot of this poltergeist stuff, a lot of this stuff that people think are uh are some sort of ghost. It's this stuff, like the Amityville horror and all that stuff, the stuff in the 70s and all that stuff. You think that the culture that arose from the 60s was organic? Absolutely not. Yeah, I think that this technology has been around for a long time. My mom says some weird stuff to me before, because when I got kicked out when I was 15 and stuff, and I was so bitter about how she kicked me out, because she basically kicked me out because my stepdad was abusive, and I got to the point in my age that I could fight back, and he was fearful that I was going to harm him, right? So instead of taking my side, she kicked me out, and I was out homeless for a while. I would live like couch to couch with friends. But when I was older, my mom told me she always knew where I was. I was like, how would you know where I was? And I'm thinking like the 90s technology, right? And now I'm thinking like, I'm pretty sure this stuff has been around for a long time. So yeah, and what we have a grasp of isn't anything. I mean, quantum computing and all that stuff is beyond any capability of my thought or how I can actually to start to imagine or think of. So yeah, just figuring out how to negate stuff, understanding your environment, understanding the psychological stuff, understanding the physical aspect of your body, and self-discipline, God, like all this stuff is Gnostic, right? Like all this knowledge will not do us any good in the long run. If God does not ordain it and does not will it, I guarantee you we will not have a breath to live. Like I guarantee you I will not be alive today if God did not will it. Because since November, most of my prayers every night, every day, I ask for God's will. Not my will be done, but his will. Because the thing is that you're right. The technology is so advanced that that you can't combat this with your own abilities. You can only negate it. You can talk, you can communicate, you could do what God's will is. And if it's a foolish idea to not rely on God. There's times that I've only I've only been able to pray. These flyover things, I can't negate this stuff. Once they fly over, they get their target, right? I could put up any kind of mechanism I want to block this and shield this. And I'm not gonna lie, I can effectively shield this stuff if other elements weren't involved, like what Andrew said with them going into your environment and manipulating it, right? Uh, if the gang stalking didn't occur, if I was in a rural area where there was limited human activity and I wasn't near a military base or whatever like that, I could negate it far more than I could now. But you know, I only there's a lot of times I can only pray. I can only pray. I can only pray, and that's all I could do. And I'm still here. I'm still alive, and these guys know it. You all know it. They're doing this to me. You try to kill me many times, and uh, and uh, and they're not letting up. But I used to let this make me angry, and I wanted revenge. I did not care. I did not care about the news about me. I did not care what the thoughts were. I didn't care if people thought that what I did was wrong because I knew that if I would have done something, that I would have done it to the right people, and there would have not been an innocent individual that would have been had issues that I would have done this to. But the fact is that that is what they wanted. They did want me to be bitter and angry because when you're bitter and angry, you don't seek God that much. You just try to seek your own abilities, and you do rely on horses and chariots, and you rely on this. And there is no king's army that can save them. No king's army can save them. No king on this land can save them from God, because this weather that's happening can be manipulated by them. But also, you underestimate God's ability. People underestimate God's power because the fact of the matter is, anything that they do, anything that they do is ordained by Him because He's sovereign. He doesn't allow this. He only allows them to do this to dig their own grave. Go ahead.
Oh, since 2015, and people can think what I want. I've been supernaturally saved many, many times by saying Psalm 91 out loud. I can quote Psalm 91 right now if I wanted to, but I'm just
You
saying that's a
should.
very
You should.
powerful,
Do it,
huh?
Jake. Do it. Do it. Quote it, please.
He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to the Lord, He's my refuge, my fortress, my God, in Him I shall trust. Surely He shall deliver us from the snare of the fowlers and from the perilous pestilence. He shall cover us with His feathers. Under His wings we shall take refuge. His truth shall be your shield and buckler. You shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor the arrow that fly by day, nor the destruction that lay waste at noonday, nor the pestilence that comes forth at darkness. Um, 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you. Only with your eyes will you look and see the reward of the wicked. Because he has set his love upon me. I don't know. Because you have made the Most High your dwelling place, no evil shall befall you, nor any plague shall come near your dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over you to keep you in all your ways. In your hands they shall bear you up, lest you dash your foot against a stone. You shall tread upon the lion and the cobra, the young lion and the serpent you shall trample underfoot. Because he has set his love upon me, therefore I will deliver him. I will be with him in trouble. I will, I will satisfy with long life. I will satisfy him and show him my salvation.
Amen. That's
And
good. That's good. So
right, Jason was saying, I said this on one of my videos, the trauma-based mind control. It says, I said, isn't it rather more than just coincidental that many of these so-called haunted houses all have one thing in common? all possess a high electromagnetic energy field when measured for paranormal activity. I think not.
So this is what I want to do if we're gonna close out pretty soon, is that I want each of us to kind of give some idea of how to relieve ourselves and how to fight this instead of, we all kind of understand the aspect of the weaponry of this, but I feel like we all have a unique perspective on stuff, and maybe we can help people negate certain things. And so whoever wants to start out with that, go ahead and do that. So, um, unless
I'll
you
go
have more
first.
information to talk about.
One of the reasons I think that I'm being heterodyned um, a lot of the times, not maybe not all the time, is because multitasking. Multitasking throws it off. Thinking in multiple skills, spontaneous, doing things spontaneous. Multitasking is one big thing, especially when I'm getting heavy B2K. But not only that, but when I'm getting hit with direct energy, well, not direct, I call them neural attacks or whatever you want to call it, or when they're hitting me hard, vibration shocks and stuff, I'll start doing 5 or 6 different things at once and thinking in different threads. And I really think that that makes it hard to lock on to my neural pathways or whatever they're trying to do in my cognitive sense. The garlic helps me. I have not missed a day of garlic in 6 months. I do 2 or 3 cloves in the morning, and sometimes I do 2 or 3 cloves in the afternoon. You have to press it, and you have to wait 10 minutes for the Allison to come out for this to be effective. In my experience. Also, I try to keep my body clean of heavy metals, just not with garlic. Beets, uh, beets, the stun gun EMP. I go over my body. I try to go over my body once a week with it. Now, if you do the stun gun EMP, from my experience, you really have to take your time. You can't just, you want to go over every little part of your body, and it takes a while. I'm not gonna lie, I have not, I've not been able to get my spine yet because I'm kind of scared of the shock if somebody messes up doing it to me. But I think they did go in my spine twice in a Colorado hospital. One, they said they were taking fluid. Another time they were said they were putting fluid in. They were taking fluid to test for an infection. Another time they said they were putting it in for a CT scan. Multitasking helps me a lot though. Uh, uh, I've got something, but I'm not gonna. Let me see what else I can show you. I'm trying to find it. 1 second. Now this is. I try to keep one of these around. Uh, well, cleaned up this morning, and I don't know where I put it. Anyway, it's a copper plated. I think Andrew's seen it before. I have 2 of them, and I have no clue. Oh, here's one of them. It's a copper plated pyramid that somebody made me. It's got copper plate, copper tape, and I will just rub it. It may not work at all. It may be in my head, but
Did
it
did
seems
Deb
to.
K make that for you?
Huh?
Did Deb K make that for
Yes.
you? Yeah, she was just talking about that. I just talked to her a few days ago.
Yeah, it seems to help me very much, and sometimes. And now it depends on what they're using. Um, this works better. This is not no shielding at all. This is just a Epsom salt bath, ancient minerals. Epsom salt baths help only temporarily though. It seems to come back per about 2 or 3 hours after the bath. It comes right back. Um, a gratitude list. When this is getting me down, making me depressed, very helps. Reading the Bible out loud. Turning the power off and going and taking a shower. I'll turn all the lights off in my area. I'll take a shower in the dark. And all this could be in my head. Who knows? Because they do play nano tricks. And what I mean by nano tricks is you'll buy some shielding, and you'll think it's working because they'll stop hitting you for a while. So then you go tell everybody to go buy this shielding and it's working, and then they get mad because it didn't work in the first place. They just stopped hitting you. So if it don't work for you, but the stun gun EMP, I've heard a lot of good results on it. I think that works, but you have to keep doing it. Um,
Yeah,
the detox you have to keep doing too. That's just for me. I have to keep doing it every day because they're saturating the area with whatever they're saturating it with, and you want to keep your body cleaning metals. Think of it this way: if you got a fork in the microwave, that microwave heats stuff up with electromagnetic radiation, basically. So you turn the microwave on, it sparks the fork. So it makes sense that all this metals, and especially some medicine has metals, and all this metals and stuff that you put in your body, the more metals you have, you're around electromagnetic radiation just from being around a computer, anything electric. So it's going to have the same effect. It's going to heat that metal up in your body. That's just some things I do.
Well, no, and that was the point I was talking about earlier, Dave. I'm glad you said that because the nanotechnology that I've been referring to, like, sorry, but anyways, that stuff, all it's doing is making those metals and assembling them. It's making avenues, streets, inroads into your body. That's the only thing that's going on there. So it's like it sounds really complicated. I mean, that's not the only thing. There's much more to it. Excuse me, but it sounds really complicated. It's not really complicated. This stuff is being ordered in your body, and then you're being accessed externally with DEWs, directed energy weapons. That's the main thing. The that and understanding these charges is what I use. So if, for example, I was using copper, I was using lots and lots of copper, like Dave was talking about, because copper does something pretty magical. If it's not being, it can take a acidic charge and bring it into alkaline, or it can take a, yeah, it can take a, Dave was just trying to show his copper pyramid again. It can take uh, a magnetic charge of crap that we're being bombarded with and bring it back and bring it into a neutral point. Okay. And bring it back into stability would be another way to say it. Because radiation, irradiation, all that, ionizing radiation is exactly what I'm talking about. But we're getting hit with all of it, by the way. It's not just one thing, it's all of it. And that's why shielding doesn't work for that long. Like Dave was just talking about, you'll use Mylar. Like I used to use Mylar all the time, and I still do occasionally. And because it does block a good section of electromagnetic activity, but they'll just work around it eventually. They've got this whole thing from extremely low frequency to gamma rays figured out, and probably more. I don't know. I don't really know. But geez, totally lost my train of thought.
You were talking about
Oh,
my
yeah, I remember the big thing, the Onionhead Andrew channel, and just the whole idea of Onionhead Andrew is the understanding these charges. You're being magnetized through the nanotech and the heavy metals and all that, and the directed energy weapons, and you need to bring that magnetism into null or avoidance or neutral or stability, whatever you want to call that. There is alkalinity is a representative, another word for dielectricism, which is another word for stability. Magnetism is another word for instability. And what we're talking about is we're talking about charges in your near environment that are going from stable to unstable and hitting you and affecting you and causing this heat. Heat is relatively unstable. Cold is relatively stable. That's why you can literally take ice packs in the areas of your body that are being affected and neutralize a lot of this radiation because you're providing that area of instability with stability. Now, there's so many ways to do that, and I was talking about the electrical ways to do that on Onionhead Andrew channel. There's solutions and whatnot, but that's the bigger concept behind everything is understanding that these pathways of conductivity are being built into your body. That's the whole fourth industrial revolution, baby. That's the whole thing about it. That when they said that we're all going to be own nothing and be happy, that's what they meant. All right, is that they're going to use this technology to depopulate as many people as they so choose at any given time, and you'll be just happy that you hooked up and able to live. That's the whole thing about it. This is the hardware of it. Understanding all of that, and then understanding the charges behind it. All right, that if you understand the charges behind it, you won't be hooked up to one particular solution. You know what I mean? Like I could sit here, and that's why I was bringing up copper or mylar or anything like that. Because, like Jason was saying earlier, they'll figure out solutions around whatever particular product or material that you're using. The better idea is just understanding how to demagnetize yourself. So then you can use anything. You can literally jump in, take an ice bath, right? That literally will expunge a lot of the heavy metals from you, break up the conductivity pathways, and resolve acidicism in your body, acidic conditions in your body. And again, like Jason was saying earlier, the bigger thing is asking God for help and humbling yourself before that. You know, how whatever your belief pattern is, um, it's very real. Everything I've gotten solution wise, I believe, is a manifestation of that principle quality or action, whatever. The quality of humbling myself, the action of asking God for help, and then aligning my life with that help. But that is the bigger solution is the spiritual. Without the spiritual, you never get to anywhere. You're hopeless. And I spent years of my life targeted without the spiritual aspect of this more condition. And at no point have I arrived. Like this is an ongoing process.
Right. And well,
Yeah.
let me say one thing. Another thing I believe the heterodyning is possible is in 2015, officer stopped me when I was getting hit with weapons and I was going through it. And my blood pressure was told over a walkie-talkie and my temperature to him over a walkie-talkie. They weren't doing nothing to me. He asked my blood pressure and my vitals. And I was being heated up at the time. Matter of fact, while I was standing still, because he said, "Why you keep moving?" I said, "Can I keep moving because I'm burning real bad." It was my first experience being hit with these weapons, and she told my blood pressure and my temperature over the walkie-talkie. I wasn't on nothing, none of that.
That right there was a real life human trafficker. That's
Really?
one of the because yeah, well they moonlight. You know, a lot of these cops they'll moonlight. You ran into the inner circle that's human trafficking in that area.
Ooh.
But so but you know the thing that I'm confused about is like I just don't the as far as like the officer stuff, so many are responsible for this activity, and I just can't comprehend how they're doing this without without governmental approval
Oh,
because
they definitely have governmental approval.
it's not just some rogue person. I believe it's in the department.
Yeah.
I remember when I was at the hospital, the security staff, when they couldn't do what they were doing to me, they had a little meeting and they were talking about policy and procedure of how to deal with me. And the only reason I would think they had policy and procedure is because this is this is a job. This isn't just like some rogue individuals or some just a one system. It's a job. It's a job that these people have willingly taken in. And see, you know, the psychological aspect of this, you can clearly
You cut
You
out,
lost your
Jason.
voice.
hello.
We
There you
got you.
go.
So it's clear to me that as a society we've been desensitized to think that it's okay to eliminate someone over whatever they may believe is moral. Because I don't want to get too much into it, but you know, having children and deciding not to have them, I'm not saying anything to those individuals that have done that, but that's a desensitization of thinking that your right is more right than the individual that you have decided to do something to. And I'm not saying this is not a moral judgment. I'm just trying to say that we have because now it's gone to the point where okay, if that's okay to do, then if people are deemed not good in society, then that's okay to do too because that is a moral correctness as well. Because if they can't produce what is necessary for society, then the moral thing to do is to eliminate them. So this is a job from every organization, from medical to emergency staff. This is a job. And as far as I want to talk about the you will own nothing and you'll eat bugs, be happy. I kind of find that to be a metaphorical saying that if you actually think about owning nothing and eating bugs, that can also refer to you being in the grave, right? Because what do you do? What do bugs do? You eat bugs, bugs eat you. You don't own nothing, right? And you'll be happy. And also, like they called us hackable animals. So obviously, if they're calling us hackable animals, they've already figured out how to hack us, right? And see, none of these people have a spiritual aspect to them. They believe either I actually don't think they don't know. I don't think it's a atheist view that these people have. I believe they know that there is a spiritual aspect in this world. They just think that they're so arrogant and so haughty that they think that they'll win in the long run, and that this agenda that they're doing, they feel like, in the Bible it says, "Don't get weary about those that do wickedness," right? Because the thing is that the this whole thing, and this is what's given me more compassion. And that people, this is a bad take for some people that are TIs, a compassion for these people that do these community stalking and gang stalking and stuff like that. Because I'm not lying, and if people think I'm funny or I have funny business, because people say I feel this. When I say I feel this, people say, yeah, I feel it too. No, I'm not. No, it's not the same. I feel it for myself, but I also feel other people. So if an individual walks by me or is present towards me, I could feel if they're drawing in or if they're drawing out. I could feel the severity of that individual. I know for a fact that these people are not only using uh, tactical weapons, right? As far as like certain elements, what we consider weapons, they are also being the weapon. They are being a tool of the weapon, not just the psychological aspect, but their body is surging through. They're being used just as much for this as anything else. And
Yeah.
I will tell you, I have my situation is different. It increases here and there because, like I said, like they will find a way to get you, right? Depending on what their desire is. And then, but people, the more you're around a congested area, the more you're around individuals, the higher this is, the worse it is. I because it's the macro part of this is that it's saturated the whole world, saturated every environment we have. The micro is the weaponry, right? You're not going to find a backpack. You're not going to find a weapon like that. You can easily have a weapon in your hand, right? Because these things have all sorts of stuff to be used with. And when people say do, I'm not going to dispute the do part, but I rather use utilities because basically we're being attacked by utilities. Everything that we use for convenience is a weapon, from the Wi-Fi to the Bluetooth to the the the, the phone signals to all that stuff can be used as a weapon, and that is definitely saturating us. And that's excluding the macro, which could be weather manipulation, things like that. Um, these people that do this stuff, there's some that have an idea of what they're doing. I watched my roommate place things in certain strategic, I can't say it. Yeah, I watched him place things in the perfect way that whatever current that was affecting me would affect me more, right? And these are everyday things like milk, yogurt, food. Basically, they were all processed food that I noticed was being used. So there has to be an element to that. And they were fully aware, that roommate was fully aware the agenda was to end me, right? Because he was complaining that I was taking too long to for this. And each place that I went to, from each the two hospitals I went to, they both got rid of my, the first one got rid of my driver's license. I witnessed them throw it away in the trash. The second one said they lost my debit card, my driver's license, all that stuff. They said they lost it, and but I was able to finally get it back. And I believe that those two occasions, the intent was not for me to be around, and that I was not going to walk away. So my faith is definitely strong because of that. Because they have an eagerness and a willingness to do some really harmful stuff to me. And uh, people that aren't aware of this are affected. I could say this, that you can almost blame any physical element that any individual has on this system. And the difference between a TI and a civilian that has, we call a normie, the only difference is that they're still under a delusion. They're still mind controlled over the environment we're in. Because you could talk about arthritis, you could talk about Alzheimer's, you could talk about all that stuff. All this stuff has been has been orchestrated to do that stuff. And I do believe that there is a mind control aspect of this, because whoever's not going to be around, they're going to have them be submissive. They're not going to be able to have them be have dissent. They're going to have them to be malleable to whatever their agenda is, and very meek and mild, and won't fight back for their rights or anything like that. And then those that they can't do that to will end up be on the depopulation thing, because this is a worldwide thing. And I'm sorry, but if you are a TI, regardless of how much pain you go through and torture you go through, I tell you, you are the blessed one, because other people are suffering the same way, but they'll go to the doctor that's poisoning them, right? They'll go to the medical people that will poison them, because um, I do believe that it's not just metal and all that stuff. I believe like there's a reason why everything that we consume has certain containers uh, and packaging, and that that it's prevalent to the point where it's in Antarctica, and that it's everywhere, and you can find it in the bloodstream of all sorts of animals that we eat, and it's been around for a very long time. But also, though, like uh, I have to have faith about everything, because nothing I've felt like I've accomplished has ever stayed permanent, except for uh, you know the faith that I've had. And um, but pay attention to people and their environment. Pay attention to your own biases. I really, people need to know that your own biases will get you. Your strengths, they will definitely use against you. They will encourage that to the point where you become arrogant, you become haughty, you think that you've got all your bases covered, that you are now got a grasp of this to the point where they're ineffective or they can't do much, because you know what they're doing, you have an idea of what they're doing, and your feed on your algorithm is telling you that this is what you do. The AI that you talk to is enforcing your belief. You hang around with individuals that will talk about the same thing, so that's enforcing what you believe. And you have to question that, though, because why was the narrative pushed in the first place? And be careful, because the reason they caught me up in the beginning of this whole thing, the reason why they got me to act out, is because I was arrogant. I was thinking I know everything. I'm smart, right? I'm smart, but I thought I was really smart, right? I thought I was smarter than most people. I remember the first guy that they introduced me to do this stuff to. I caught all his little markers, his little red flags, all the nonsense he was spewing. And I was so arrogant. I was thinking, I can handle this. I don't have no worries about this. I know what he's doing. I know what game he's playing. No, no. That's what caught me up. That's what they got me frightened. That's how they got me twisted up. That's how they got me to do all kinds of stuff, because they will work on all of us for many years. Again, I don't know how long it had been before they decided to go overt, but I do know that they work on all of us for many years. So they know you. They know you. They know you very much. And if you're not able to adapt, change, and alter and be introspective about who you are as a person, you're going to get caught up to the point where you're in a rut, and they have you exactly where they want you. And they will still, like, I'm apprehensive of saying this stuff, because I know that this can all be used against me, because they'll just try to do something else, because their capabilities are beyond my understanding. But if you're humble enough to understand that you don't know it all, and that you can't do it all, and that really isn't anything that you have control over, then you will understand that if you have faith in God and you rely on God, then the fear of that stuff will kind of negate, and you'll be more at peace. And I encourage people to understand that this is a good platform for those that don't have nobody to be able to talk to. But if you have individuals, you have family, get close to them, talk to them, protect them, make sure that they're okay. You don't have to talk about the TI movement. You don't have to go into the conspiracies of life, but just watch them, help them with stuff that they may not understand without saying something. Interject with stuff, help them, come to them with a different uh, uh, dialogue. Say like this is poison. Say that what they're doing is hurting them, but they're not knowing that it's a weapon or an outside source. Explain to them the health perspective of it. Explain to them how this can affect them in a way that they would understand without the conspiracy. Rely on God in all things. And I'm not politically correct when it comes to that. I respect people with other faiths, and I do not judge people with other faiths. But I'll tell you what, there's only one that will save you, only one, and he died on the cross, and that's it. And he said, "I am the way," and that he didn't say it to be exclusive, to say that we're better people for believing in him. He was just trying to help us out in the first place, because we talk about the technology being around for such a long time. They're ahead of us for so many years. I'm sure it's because this is spiritual, and but I also encourage people, do not be hyper spiritual. Don't be hyper spiritual. Don't believe that everything that they're putting out there is correct, and that this is all the Nephilim or Akhenaten, what is it, Akanaki or whatever they're calling it, or there's a reason they're putting all this nonsense out there. And you just got to have faith in God. Got to settle. If you want to hear God's word, I need to tell people this. It's not going to come audible from you necessarily. It's not going to be him saying something to you like, go do this, go do that. What he's going to do, he gave us his word, and it's in the Bible. You want to know what his word is? Read the Bible. Read the Bible. Don't rely on me. Don't rely on Andrew. Don't rely on David. Read the Bible. Because I'm telling you, in 2016, I was kind of a skeptic. I didn't know if I believed. I wanted to believe, but I was bitter about past life. And then I read the Bible, and it really explained so much about this world, right? And another thing I need to say, they do make mistakes, because they've been watching me for a long time. In 2016 and stuff, I was really bad health wise, beyond. I was taking a drawer full of medication. I could barely get out of my bed. I could hardly breathe. I was addicted to pain pills, to all kinds of stuff, and I was in bad shape. What they did do, make a mistake, they got my ex-wife to leave me, right? They psyoped her to the point where she didn't want to be around me. She hyper focused on some of the negative stuff that happened when you were younger. She ended up going to California and some crazy stuff happened. And that was basically the introduction to this whole thing in the first place, is what they did to her. They did some nasty stuff with her, right? She still to this day doesn't know what happened, right? But they made a mistake, because the fact of the matter is if they would have left me alone and not been overt, I wouldn't have been alive right now. Guarantee you, I would not be alive right now. I guarantee you I would not. And if their objective was to kill me, they should have just let me be, because I would have died, because I had a drawer full of medication that would have killed me soon. And I
Jason,
was,
can I jump in? Can I
yeah,
jump in right here? I think so. I think because this is going on with a lot of people, this is really relevant information with targeted people. Is that I think in those early years, this is what I think. I don't know this for sure. This is based off all the people I've talked to, my own experiences, and just like hearing Jason, people like that, right? So like hearing people talk. We're not just talking. Is that in the early years, they were using of our targeting, which was most of us, I think, were signed up right around 2015, me, Dave, and Jason. No, but not every target by any means. I'm getting lots of people that have only been in this for 2, 3 years. Anyways, now they're trying to kill us off. The early years, they were trying to collect the data to autonomize this system so that I mean, that's what they're doing, the whole thing with the neurotech, the directed energy weapons, the implants. That's all to collect data to send off to AI or whatever other software so that this can be done through corporations like Palantir and local government and all that type of thing to automatically target people. And I think once we get to a certain threshold of survivability, their returns of data for their data ledgers, the military contractors, the human traffickers that are doing this, and the FBI contractors, the FBI, DHS people that are making these decisions, decide, US military also, they decide, they go, it's not worth it anymore. So they move into a different phase, which is kill you however you can, however they can. I've been in that phase now since 2021, kinetic, means literally trying to murder me on the road, literally trying to kidnap me, a whole bunch of stuff. A lot of people experience this,
Mm.
attacking as much as they can with the directed energy weapons. It's because I think that they're trying to free up the personnel from people like me, Dave, and Jason who have been around the block to go after the new fresh crop so that they can get more data from them and make more money.
Andrew, please email me what you were talking about my blood pressure. And will you explain to me in the
Oh
email?
yeah, yeah. No, we can talk right off air if you don't mind. Yeah,
Uh,
right after we
oh
close.
yeah. Well, I'm gonna have to take a nap before I have to talk.
Okay,
I'm
gotcha.
gonna have to talk to.
Okay. Well,
I'll
call me
tell you what.
later, or I'll call you later.
Okay, because I'm interested in knowing your thoughts on it. I've heard a bunch of different thoughts.
Mhm. But that's my opinion, Jason, about the increased activity in your life that seems more vicious because it is, and more lethal because it is. I
Yeah,
think
it is.
they're literally trying to kill us off like we're a crop of cattle that can just be eliminated so they can sign up all these new people.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, and that's there. There is hope. Like I mean, come on, like there is hope. That's all I can say about that. There is hope. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and I think understanding the charges and the nanotechnology and then having the spiritual side of it, asking God for answers about everything. Not just don't ask him about anything that I've said or anyone said ever, and you'll get your answer eventually. But just
yeah,
understanding those things, you put that together and you can function, you can live. I think a lot of us that have this higher understanding of what's going on and are still don't have a quality of life, it's because our near environment is polluted to such an extent that it's hard to fathom. Like if you're allowing access to these people for these people to get into your place of living while you're not there, then the crap that they're putting on the walls in the air is just it's unfreaking fathomable because they're using all the old technologies too, like I was talking about a second ago, the insecticides, the herbicides, the stuff they were doing post World War II. They're doing everything like that if they're getting into your space and your food. If you're leaving your food out, they're putting particulate in it. So every bite of food that you leave behind and these military contractors access is potentially your death.
yeah. The last thing I say is like, you know, the Bible says, test the spirit, right? And that's what you gotta do. Just test the spirit, test everybody, pray about this stuff that we talk about, and just understand that yeah, I don't know, just yeah. So I hope this was helpful for people. Um,
And I thank both of y'all for coming on. I think we had a great conversation. I think a lot of I would find it beneficial if I was a TI and I didn't know much about this and was listening to it from all sides. I really appreciate y'all taking y'all's time because people, I think that's a big thing is I respect just people's time because we're all being tortured on top of trying to take care of responsibilities. It's a big
right?
deal to
Yeah,
give 2 hours of your time, and I really appreciate it.
yeah. And David, I want to tell you this before we go. I don't know if we're off stage. You know how you talk to me about stuff and what's important to you, and that you're busy and you're doing this kind of stuff with other individuals. Never feel guilty for taking that time. We as TIs, we become needy. We become uh, like like toxic to some degree because of our isolation, because of our pain and our struggle, and we become distrusting and all that stuff. But you know, it is important that we take the time that we have individuals outside this community that we love and we care for, and never feel guilty for taking that time and helping them out, because in the long run they're the ones that's, this is nice, it gives us a sense of camaraderie with everybody. But those individuals outside of this digital realm, those are the ones that you gotta love and cherish and take time with, because uh, happiness is moments, right? It's happenings, and so happiness is happening. So whatever's happening at the moment, take that in and enjoy it, right? So that's all I have to say.
Right. Is everybody done? I'll start recording. Okay, I'll start recording right